Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today is going to be my official predictions and breakdown of the NFL divisional round of the playoffs. So if you didn't listen to my wild card takes, didn't have a very good week. I went 3-3 in the wild card round, unlike last year where I think I went like 6-0 or 5-1 in the wild card round. This year, some upsets happened, at least for me. Some things played out that I just didn't really see happening. So yesterday I made my video where I reacted to the wild card games for Sunday and Monday. I already made the Saturday wild card games reaction. So if you want to hear all my thoughts about wild card weekend, you can definitely go listen to those videos here on the channel. But today we're strictly talking about the divisional round of the playoffs. So we're going to start off with the 1-4 matchup in the AFC between the Chiefs and the Texans. And if you guys listen to my weekly picks all throughout the year, you know that I have never picked against the Chiefs this entire year. It's not that I thought the Chiefs were going to go undefeated in the regular season. I just thought, like, week to week, how can you ever pick against Mahomes and Andy Reid? There actually was 2 times this year where the Chiefs were underdogs in the regular season. Funny enough, one of those games was against the Niners, which I said bet the farm on. They crushed the Niners in that game. And the Bills, they did actually lose that game to the Bills, but they're sitting at 15-2 right now. They're going to be hosting Houston, who's 10-7. And I think Houston has, honestly, at least for the regular season, I think they've had a bit of a disappointing year because you look at 2023 with their massive turnaround. They won 10 games in 2023. So I think the expectation was they're going to take another jump, especially when you look at all the veterans that they were able to bring in this offseason, like Danielle Hunter, like Joe Mixon, like Stephon Diggs, adding all these big-name guys to the team, and just kind of factoring in, we all thought CJ was going to take another massive jump in production. I said Houston would be a team vying for the number 1 seed, and I think that they were just, at least on offense, kind of disappointing the entire year. I don't quite know what that stems from because, obviously the biggest weakness of this Texans roster is their O-line. But it's the exact same offensive line they had last season, and CJ in his rookie year put up better numbers with less talent around him. So it's kind of a weird year for Houston. However, they are coming off a monumentous high right now of absolutely crushing the Chargers, and I don't even think CJ had that good of a game. Particularly the first half against the Chargers, CJ was not playing very well. I think he got a touchdown at like the very end of the first half and then played pretty well in the second half of that game. But overall, CJ, it's not like he was the reason why Houston won that game. The reason why Houston won that game against the Chargers was their defense showed up. And it's no real surprise that Houston's defense is showing up in the playoffs when you just look around at the personnel on this defense, the absolute stars they have on this team between Will Anderson Jr., who was wreaking havoc on the Chargers, Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter. These are all high-end guys that were dominating. And you know what they say, I don't want to be, like a cliche, but you know what they say, defense wins championships. So if Houston's defense continues to play like this, they're going to have a shot in this game for sure. And it's kind of similar to what I said last week about the Buffalo-Denver game. I said about Denver, I'm not picking Denver, but their defense is going to keep them in the game. And it did for the first half of that game. They were, it was a tight game until obviously the second half, it wasn't close. But the first half of the game, pretty competitive. I could see that actually playing out very similarly to this game. I think it'll be a competitive first half back and forth. And then, obviously Andy Reid being an incredible coach, particularly at adjustments and all that, coming out for the second half, I think they're going to it's not going to be that close. When I look at, a big reason, really the main reason why I picked the Chargers to beat Houston in the first round was because how bad their offensive line played. It was able to hold up against the Chargers, and really that didn't matter because of how bad Herbert played in that game. But this goes without saying, Mahomes is a completely different beast than Justin Herbert. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I know people out there are saying that Allen and Lamar are actually better than Mahomes right now, just from, a statistical standpoint. We're in the playoffs right now. There's no one even fucking remotely close to Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, for the regular season, I did rank Josh Allen above Patrick Mahomes. But like I just said, we're not in the fucking regular season anymore. The playoffs are a whole different beast. So what does this all mean? Like I said, I'm predicting this to be a competitive first half. The Chiefs are, throughout the entire Mahomes era, they have been a second half team. So I think it will be a competitive first half. Maybe even Houston has a small lead going into halftime, and then I think Kansas City will come out and bludgeon the Texans and really just kind of focus in on their weaknesses, most notably their O-line being really bad. Their receiver core is really depleted. Of course, they have a fucking monster in Nico Collins, but outside of him, not really a big reliable weapon. I do think Nico Collins potentially, you never know with these matchups, but could potentially have a rough day with Trent McDuffie on him, who's emerging as one of the best corners in the league for Kansas City. So I look at the limitations of this offense. I think really the only way Houston is going to win this game is if Joe Mixon just has one of those unbelievable dominating performances that he has had. And I don't know if it's quite fair to expect that of Joe Mixon. He had some amazing performances in the regular season. Joe Mixon single-handedly won the Texans several games throughout the regular season. But I don't know how realistic that's going to be against this Chiefs team that is so good at stopping the run. So really, the Texans' key to win, I think, is really establishing the run. They're going to have to kind of rely on Joe Mixon to have a monster day if they want to have any real shot in this game, because I just think the passing game is going to be a struggle with all the injuries, with Kansas City having such good personnel in their secondary, and just the defense in general. So, it's not a big controversial take to say the Chiefs are going to win this game. They're 8.5-point favorites. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions for a reason. Obviously, we'd all like to see the upset just because it's cool to see new teams go further. It would be crazy to see the Chiefs upset in Arrowhead, but I just can't do it. And I think that this Chiefs team is really well balanced. I think it's honestly even more balanced than it was last year, just with the emergence of Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco complement each other perfectly. DeAndre Hopkins has been really underrated since he joined the Chiefs. He's actually had a really good year since he joined the Chiefs. We all know Kelsey last year turned it up in the playoffs, went back to being prime Kelsey. So odds are that Kelsey's going to be really good for this playoff run. So I think, if you look at last year, which I think last year's Chiefs wasn't even as good as this year's Chiefs because they're a more balanced team. Even though Rashee Rice is gone, you have D-Hop, you have Kelsey, you have a really, I think, improved run game with Kareem Hunt being so good this year. I look at last year with the Chiefs, like when the Chiefs went to Buffalo and went to Baltimore, I picked the Chiefs in both of those games. So how can I turn around, look at this Chiefs team? They're a better team, objectively. They won 15 fucking games this year. They have a better overall run game, I think. How can I, last year pick them to beat those teams on the road and then turn around and then say, yeah, Houston's going to beat them in Arrowhead? I just don't think there's a chance it's going to happen. So in summary, I think it'll be competitive in the first half. Then the Chiefs will bludgeon the Texans in the second half of this game, and the Chiefs will advance to the AFC Championship game for the millionth time. And, of course, we're going to go over to the NFC for the 1-6 matchup between the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions. So the Commanders, I'll keep saying this because it's 100% true. The Commanders this year are what the Texans were last year. The Texans came out of nowhere behind their new head coach and sensational rookie quarterback and really went on a Cinderella run, won a playoff game. That's exactly what Washington did this year. I think this is where their Cinderella run does come to an end. When you look at Washington, their last 8 games that they won came on the last play. So that means every single one of their last 8 wins, they won on the last play of the game. I don't think that is a very replicatable recipe, especially against a team like Detroit that just has so much talent all over this team. This Washington team honestly kind of reminds me of the 2022 Vikings. If you don't remember that team, that was Kirk Cousins, one of his better years in the league. That Vikings team won a ton of games. I think they won like 13 games in the regular season. Then they played the Giants in the playoffs, and they lost to the Giants. Now, obviously, this Commanders team is better because they won a playoff game. But if you remember, that Vikings team, Back in 2022, they were 11-0 in one-score games. That means all their games were shootouts. They won big, they had to put up a lot of points. Their defense sucked. I see a lot of parallels between that 2022 Vikings team and this 2024 Washington Commanders team, where it's high-powered offense. They can put up a lot of points, but they typically don't dominate because their defense isn't very good, similar to that Vikings team. This Commanders defense, I think Dan Quinn has done a phenomenal job of kind of masking the shortcomings of the personnel on the defense. But when you're playing a team like Detroit that has, like I said, so much talent and arguably the best coaching staff in the NFL, I do think that defense is going to get picked apart by Jared Goff and all the talent that they have. I mean, it's really just surgical how this Lions offense operates, where they can pick you apart in a million different ways. Like, whereas Washington, they can only win in one way. That's a shootout. I don't think they're going to win a shootout with Detroit. Detroit can win a million different ways. They can go over the top, throw deep bombs to Jamison Williams. They can surgically pick you apart with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. They can crush you in the run game because Dave Montgomery is reported to be back in this game. This is by far the best running back tandem in the NFL. So you got all that going. You got Jared Goff, who, this is where I give the Lions so much credit, is this is what good teams do with their quarterback. It's not like a, what's the saying, like a square peg in a round hole. That's not what good teams do with their quarterback. Bad teams take the quarterback and say, this is how you're going to play. This is how you're going to play in our offense. This is how we want you to operate with the team. Good teams look at their quarterback and say, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? How can we mask the weaknesses? And how can we lean into his strengths? What's Jared Goff's biggest weakness? He's immobile. He's like Peyton Manning. He doesn't fucking move. He can't do anything out of the pocket. He's one of the, few old school type, just stay in the quarterback type players still left in the league right now. So Detroit knows that. What do? They build the best, or if not the best, like a top 3 O-line in the fucking league. What's Jared Goff's strengths? He's got an amazing arm. He's got a great deep ball ability. So what do? They get him stud receivers. They don't ask him to do anything out of his comfort zone. He plays in a very extremely efficient style of football. He's the quintessential game manager. Obviously, he's not to the level of Brady, of course, but he reminds me of Brady just in his play style. Not mobile, picks you apart, very efficient, makes the right reads. And I just think, if Detroit runs into a more competent defense, they could definitely give them issues. But I think, like I said earlier, Washington's problems on defense have really been masked by Dan Quinn. I think those are going to be exposed. So I do think the Lions are going to shred the Commanders in this game. I don't even really think it's going to be that close, to be honest with you. And that's kind of the reason why this is a 9.5-point spread, which for a divisional round is kind of crazy. That we're in the second round of the playoffs and a team is almost a 10-point favorite, basically is a 10-point favorite in this game. I don't want to spend too much time, but like I said, Washington, you have to give them a lot of credit for the fact that they're even here, because I didn't think they'd be very good this year. I don't think a lot of people thought they'd be very good. The fact that they won a playoff game this year is a massive accomplishment in its own right. So it sucks to lose in the playoffs. That's what I'm predicting for Washington, but the fact they're here, big credit to them. Next, we go on to the Sunday slate of games. So in the NFC, we have the 4-2 matchup between the Rams and the Eagles. Bit of an interesting line here for the Eagles being 6.5-point favorites. I honestly thought that this line was going to be smaller. I thought it'd be like 3.5, 4.5, but no. Vegas is really confident in the Eagles here to win by a touchdown. Yeah, I'm going with Vegas here. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. And my biggest reason is when we look at Philly, I don't think that I said this in my reaction video, and I'm going to continue to say it as long as the Eagles don't lose this game. I don't think their offense is going to look as mediocre for the rest of this playoff run as it did against Green Bay. Like their offense, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't really that good either. It was just kind of It was fine. Like it got by. It's not why they won the game. They won the game against Green Bay because their defense fucking showed up and showed out. So I do think the Eagles going forward throughout this playoff run, their offense is just going to get better. I think Jalen was kind of fuzzy coming off of the concussion. This is It's just such a stacked team. It's such a stacked roster. I don't think this is going to be any pushover matchup, though, for the Eagles. Like, the Rams are a legit team. They fucking crushed the Vikings. And why did they crush the Vikings? Well, it all goes back to what I said, in my predictions video for Wild Card Weekend is I have a very simple algorithm to figure out what teams are going to win in the playoffs, and I went against that algorithm. I even said that. It's who has the better coach, who has the better quarterback. You could argue the Rams have both the better, they definitely have the better coach. It's not even close. The question is, would you rather have Stafford or Hurts? Probably most people would say Stafford in a playoff game because Stafford has won a Super Bowl. They're a red-hot team right now, whereas Jalen didn't look very good against Green Bay. Like I said, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't that great either. Didn't really wow in any which way. So, again, that's why I'm kind of surprised by this line. I thought this line would be a lot smaller. I thought it'd be like Rams are 3.5-point dogs as opposed to touchdown dogs. So I will take the Eagles in this one. I just think with how their defense is playing right now, with how fucking dominant it is, the Rams, I just don't think they're going to be able to rely on getting 9 sacks like they did against the Vikings. That's another, massive reason, probably the main, in terms of just the X's and O's, the play, the reason why the Rams won the game outside of personnel, the sacks. They sacked Sam Darnold 9 times in that game. You're not going to sack Jalen Hurts 9 times. I'd be shocked if you sacked him 4 times because the Eagles have, it's if not the best O-line in the league, it's second. It's either them or Detroit. I don't care which order you want to put it in. I'd probably lean Philly. The Eagles probably have the best O-line in the league. You're not putting up 9 fucking sacks on Jalen Hurts. It's just not going to happen. And I talked about this in my wild card breakdown is there's just so many pieces. It's similar to Detroit. There's so many ways the Eagles can beat you on offense. If you want to try to stop Saquon, they have the best receiver duo in the league. If you want to try to hold the receivers and focus on the pass game, Saquon is coming off a 2,000-yard season in the regular season. I just think this is such a difficult team to defeat. They have so much overwhelming talent, so many good playmakers on both sides of the ball. But I do think that the best argument, if you're going to say you want the Rams, if you're picking the Rams, the argument is Sean McVay is in a different stratosphere than Nick Sirianni, so they have a massive, massive advantage in the coaching department. If the Rams do win this one, I think that's going to be the big storyline coming out of this one is Sean McVay just fucking put on a coaching clinic against Nick Sirianni. Just, they played a chess game, and it wasn't even fucking close. McVay had him in checkmate in 5 fucking moves. It's going to be that. Yeah, I do think the Eagles are going to win. Like I said, a little surprised by the line, but they have so much talent. They should get to the NFC title game. Then we have the final game of the divisional round, which is the Sunday night game between the Ravens and the Bills. And I specifically saved this one for last because definitely the most anticipated game of this week by far. And when we look at the spread, it's even. This is a pick'em. The Ravens technically are favorited by -1, but you have to win by -1 anyway. You have to win by 1 point anyway, so the spread doesn't even really matter, although it does tell you Vegas thinks the Ravens are going to win this game. Why is kind of crazy to me because you see, this is a tough one. I could see this going a couple of different ways, but usually when you're making lines, when Vegas makes lines, especially in close playoff games like this with 2 great teams, you typically look at who has the home field. They get 3 points. And I'm not saying the Bills should be 3-point favorites in this one, but if you're making this a pick'em, at least make the Bills the super slate favorite at -1. That to me is kind of fucking crazy that Baltimore is the technical favorite in this game in the eyes of the sports books. So I'm going with the Buffalo Bills for 2 reasons. Number one, like I just said, they're in Buffalo. I think Buffalo is outside of Arrowhead, maybe Lambeau. Buffalo's definitely in the top 5 for home field advantages out there. I do think, obviously it's not like it's like a beach and sunny in Baltimore or anything. It gets really fucking cold there too. But Buffalo, it's just it's on a different level. It's one of the craziest atmospheres. Bills Mafia going crazy. Fucking blizzard could roll through at any time. I didn't check the weather forecast for Buffalo. We'll have to look at that. But you got all that going. It's in Buffalo. And my thing is Josh Allen. I trust Josh Allen in the playoffs more than Lamar. I don't think it's like a narrative or anything to say that Lamar doesn't perform very well in the playoffs. That's just factual. That's 100% factual. I'm not trying to say that because I'm like some Lamar hater or anything. I've always liked Lamar. Obviously, I don't like that he's on the Ravens. I was really sad when they drafted him, being a Steelers fan, because I liked him a lot at Louisville. He was really fucking fun to watch. How could you not like that? But I don't think that me saying he doesn't play up to standards in the playoffs is a hot take or me being a hater of Lamar, because I don't hate Lamar. I really like Lamar, but the facts bear he's just not that good in the playoffs. That's his thing. And Josh Allen, people might point to and turn around the argument and say, well, Josh Allen hasn't won anything. Why don't you blast him for not playing as well? I think if that's your take, you just don't really understand football, because if you watch these games, Josh Allen leaves everything out there on the fucking line. I'm not some Josh Allen standboy. I don't really give a fuck about Buffalo. Like, I don't hate them. I don't really care. I'm a Steelers fan. So me saying this stuff isn't me trying to, glaze or be a fanboy of Josh Allen. I don't give a fuck. I'm just telling you what I see. I'm telling you, I'm trying to be unbiased. I'm telling you what I see. I watch these fucking games. I'm telling you what I see. Josh Allen plays better in the playoffs. Yeah, his team hasn't won a Super Bowl, but who the fuck has in the Chiefs era? And there's a reason why we say Lamar underperforms is because his numbers drop off a cliff. He doesn't perform well. Josh Allen's numbers don't drop off. Josh Allen, his production actually goes up in the playoffs. If you look at the numbers, the stats will bear that out. Josh Allen's numbers go up in the playoffs. Lamar's go down. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's all it is. It's not a fucking narrative. That is stats. That's evidence. And you even go back to last year. Last year, I think, is a perfect example of this. The Bills and the Ravens both played the Chiefs last year, both got to host the Chiefs last year. They both lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Chiefs for different reasons. Josh Allen, I don't think, could have played better in that game against the Chiefs. He laid it all out on the line. He was the fucking offense. He was the reason why they were even in that game. And what happens? Tyler Bass fucking botches the field goal and ruins it for the Bills. Okay, Chiefs win that one. What does Lamar do in the AFC title game? He completely fucking shrank. Lamar was terrible in that game against the Chiefs. So that's why it's such a stark contrast, I think, between Lamar and Josh Allen in terms of the discourse around them when it comes to the playoffs, is because one guy elevates, one guy doesn't. That's why, to me, it is so surprising that when you look at this, Vegas thinks that Baltimore will win this game. I don't. I'm going with the Bills in this game. I think that the Bills, I saw really good signs from Buffalo in their game against Denver, the wild card matchup against Denver. Because my biggest concern, well, I actually had two big concerns about the Bills going to this playoff run, was their defense. I thought their defense sucked in the regular season. It was just bad. Well, it was actually pretty fucking good against Denver. It's not like Denver had some terrible offense. Like, Denver's been putting up numbers all year long. Bo Nix is a real candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's had a really good year. They held him to just 7 points. And I think that touchdown was on the opening drive. So for the rest of the game, Denver didn't score a single fucking point. So the Bills' defense looked really good. That was my biggest area of concern for Buffalo. Number two was I thought that they were getting too Josh Allen reliant. I've talked about that a lot on this channel. You're probably sick and tired of me saying it. But I thought that they were showing signs of regression with Josh Allen, or with the offense, with just saying, hey, Josh, put on your Superman cape, fucking carry us to the promised land, go out there and do your thing. Well, I think that they kind of got back to the more balanced offense we saw earlier in the year when Buffalo started off the year, 4-0, 5-0, where they utilized James Cook. They put a big priority in establishing the run with James Cook, and James Cook had a phenomenal performance against Denver, and the game wasn't close. It was 31-7. So those were my two big area of concerns, the defense and the offense getting too Josh Allen reliant. That wild card game, those concerns look to be kind of answered, whereas with Baltimore, I don't know. They crushed my Steelers, but that's not really saying a whole lot. My Steelers were fucking terrible. I mean, I already went on my Steelers rant, so I'm not getting into that now. But I don't know. I don't know. It could go either way, but like I said, I think Allen, better performer. I trust him more, and it's in Buffalo, so I'm rolling with the Buffalo Bills to beat the Baltimore Ravens in this one. So definitely a long video here. Sorry. I mean, this always fucking happens when I go off on these tangents, but hopefully you guys liked the video. Definitely go down in the comments. Please, if you're listening, go in the comments and let me know your picks for these games. I really want to know if you guys agree with me. If you disagree with my picks, tell me why. Don't just say, oh, you're an idiot, you don't know. No, tell me why you think I'm wrong. I would love to have a conversation about it in the comments. So that's been it for all my divisional round predictions. If you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.